Hello, in this video I'm going to be talking you through Fibonacci style sequences, which is one of the types of sequence that you need to be familiar with for the GCSE maths course. Fibonacci style sequences are called after an Italian mathematician called Leonardo of Pisa, whose nickname was Fibonacci. He did some work on the puzzle of rabbits and their population over time. And his puzzle generated this sequence that I've written up here. It goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Now this is a very interesting sequence because it generates quite a lot of interesting characteristics. But what you need to know for GCSE is for a Fibonacci style sequence, you add the previous two terms to get the next one. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 plus 5 is 8, and 5 plus 8 is 13. So that would be our next number in the sequence. Okay, so if you get asked to find the next terms of a Fibonacci style sequence, that's all you need to do. 5 plus 9 is 14, 9 plus 14 is 23. Okay, so in these questions, I've got something a little bit more tricky coming in. For the first one, we've got algebra in our terms. Don't be put off if you're given algebra in terms. You're still just following the rule of adding things together. You just need to make sure you simplify as you go. So if I wanted the third term of this sequence, and I need to add these together, so I'm just going to write 2x plus y. If I want the fourth term of the sequence, I'm going to add these two terms together. So I'm doing y plus 2x plus y, and then I'm going to simplify it. That will simplify to 2x plus 2y. So take your time with the algebra, don't panic, you can still work it through. This question is going to be a little bit more complicated. Let's say I was told the third term was 9, the sixth term was 24, I had a Fibonacci sequence, and I needed the first 5 terms. This is the process I would follow. First of all, if I know the third term is 9, I can pop that there. The sixth term is 24, I can pop that there. I need to now fill in the gaps. The reason this is more difficult is because I have 2 gaps there, I can't work out any of them very easily. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this term here x. This term here is whatever this one is plus 9. So I'm going to call this term here x plus 9. Now what I know is this one plus this one has to make me 24. So I'm going to write x plus 9 equals to 24. I'm going to simplify. 2x plus 9 equals 24. And I'm going to solve to find out what x is. Take away 9 from both sides first of all. 2x is 15. Divide by 2. X comes out as 7.5. So that means that this number here has to be 7.5. And this number here is going to be 7.5 plus 9, or 16.5. Okay, I can now work backwards. Something plus 9 to get me 7.5 is going to have to be minus 1.5. Okay, and something plus minus 1.5 to get me 9 is going to have to be 10.5. Okay, that one was quite a tricky one because we had decimals as well as the algebra coming in, but you might get something which requires you to introduce algebra in order to solve the problem. Okay, so your turn now. Here are some Fibonacci style sequences with some terms missing. See if you can fill in the gaps, and the red one at the end is a challenge that might require you to form some algebra. Okay, so here are the solutions, and I'm going to talk through the red question step by step because that one's a little bit more complicated. Okay, so I'm going to talk through the algebraic method for solving the fourth problem. So I'm going to call the first unknown value in my sequence x. Because it's a Fibonacci style sequence, I know that 6 plus x has to get me this next one here. So I can call this one x plus 6. It's always a good idea when working with algebra to introduce as few extra letters as possible, because that means you'll be able to solve and do more with it. So, because it's Fibonacci, again, I know that this one plus this one has to make 30. So I can form an equation now with x in. I can now simplify this equation to 2x plus 6 equals 30. And if I solve this, I can work out what number goes in that gap there as x. Take away 6 from both sides, and then divide both sides by 2. So I now know that 12 has to go in that second position. And from that, I can then use the adding rules to get 18 and 48 as my other gaps. Here is an Edexcel GCSE question on Fibonacci sequences. So have a read through, talk to the person next to you, and see how far you can get with these challenging questions. Okay, so here is worked solutions for these questions. They get progressively more difficult as you go down. So for question 6a, we've been given a Fibonacci sequence and we've got the first 6 terms. To find the 9th term, we can just keep following the rules step by step until we get to the 9th term of the sequence. So following the adding as we go along rule, we get 13, 21, and 34. So the 9th term of our sequence is 34. For part B, we're doing something very similar, but instead of just working with numbers, we're going to have to work with algebra as well. So we're going to be adding b and a plus b together to get the 4th term, and then so on for the others. Because this is a show that question, I want to make sure it's really, really clear what I've done. So I'm just going to label in my working out the 4th term, the 5th term, and then the 6th term as well. For part C, we're still working with this sequence here. We've been told that the third term is 7 and the sixth term is 29. So the third term was called a plus b, and the sixth term is 3a plus 5b. So I can write a plus b is 7 and 3a plus 5b is 29 from this information. We're now dealing with simultaneous equations. So there are different routes through this. Any of them is fine as long as you use one of the approaches you've learnt about in the simultaneous equations topic. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to multiply the first equation by 5 in order to get the coefficients of b the same. I'm now going to subtract one equation from the other, and that leaves me with 2a is equal to 6. I'm going to divide both sides of that by 2 to give me a is 3, and then looking at the first equation I was given, I can put 3 in, and that gives me that b is 4. Before I finish this question, if I were doing it in an exam, I would also put those values into the other equation to double check it, and that is completely correct because 3 lots of 3 is 9, 5 lots of 4 is 20, and 9 plus 20 gives me 29. So I know I'm correct and I can move on confidently.